me, my season begins in the winter. I'm one of those odd guys that say their season begins in the winter. Most folks will start their season in the spring and spend winter preparing for their season. But for me, I like to fish these winter tailwater rivers, and I like to hunt these rising fish to the winter hatches of midges and then late winter spring blueing dollows. They're there, you just have
That's going to be good. That's going to be outstanding.
And when I find them, the results are often spectacular. Tailwater rivers are rivers born from the bottom of a dam. And the water that comes out of the dam is full of nature's fertilizer. And it creates incredible biomasses, plant life, algae, grasses, that in turn create a perfect setting for aquatic insects. And trout eat aquatic insects. I want to begin my hunt near the reservoir or the dam because that's where the river's warmer. If I don't make it to the dam, the river can be iced over. The water's colder down there, and I don't want to be down there.
Hi, welcome back to the channel. I'm Mike at Northwest School of Fly Fishing, the Old Fish Hobo, and I'm here on a high desert river, in particular the Wahi River, in just on the Idaho-Oregon border in Oregon. And I'm doing some winter fishing today, and I want to talk to you about strategies for fly fishing tailwater rivers. And the section of the Wahi River is a tailwater river, and it's fairly popular, but not so much in the wintertime. You can come up here and fly fish. But there's certain strategies that you need to really keep in mind because all tailwater rivers fall into this category. All tailwater rivers are rivers born from the bottom of a dam. Typically that's a reservoir. And that's really nutrient-rich water, and it flows right from the bottom of the reservoir. And that water is 45 degrees cold, or in the summertime it's right around 50 degrees cold, and trout love cold water. But in the wintertime, that cold water is actually warm water, and trout thrive really in that 48 degree all the way up to 58 degree temperature. They really thrive in that. But what makes tailwater rivers, from a strategic standpoint, important to the fly fisherman is the closer you are to the dam, the warmer the water will be. And that's that's a concept that you should burn in your brain, because the farther you get down from a dam, the colder the water gets. And in particular, I'm probably about 3 miles down from the dam, and there's a lot of activity I'm seeing on the surface. But the farther that you go down this river, the colder the water gets, especially in winter. You get down in the 20s, late teens, 20s, and lower 30s, and the lower river is gonna ice over. The water's gonna get real cold, and that has an effect on trout and their trout metabolisms, and it has an effect on the insects themselves. So what we're seeing today, this is mid to late February, and we're seeing the first of the spring blue-winged olives. And they like to be in that temperature water to really come off the river. So from a logical standpoint, it makes much more sense for me to be in the wintertime fishing where the water's a little warmer, say that 45 degree mark, than it is for me to go down another 5 miles where that water temperature is at, probably right around freezing. Those fish are gonna be lethargic, the hatches are gonna be sporadic, but if I just go a few miles upriver and I'm gonna be fishing water where the insect activity is much greater, the trout's metabolism is much faster now, they're feeding, they're active, so it's just a mile or two difference, one way or the other can make all the difference in the world. Now this time of year on a tailwater river, on this particular water, and most really rivers of the West, and in the East too, is about this time of the year, we're still hardcore into midge activity. The fish are really feeding on midges, but we get this sporadic, especially if you can curve a blue-winged olive hatch. It has a little curve like this. So a 24-hour curve would look like this. And the optimum time we would want to fish that's right at the top of the curve, say around 1:30. However, in the beginning of the curve, at the beginning of the day, it can be a little sporadic, and towards the end of the hatch, it can be really fairly sporadic. The same thing we can do for a blue-winged olive hatch is we can do a calendar year graph. So here it is, mid to late February, we're starting to see blue-winged olives, and that curve's going to go all the way into May. So the best time to be fishing that curve is right at the top. We're right here at where that curve is starting. And why is that important to you? Because the midge activity is still at the top of the curve. And you're going to find those fish feeding on those midges. But really, and the obvious becomes, you can see what fish are doing. If it's a midge hatch, you don't see a lot of midges on the water, but you see a lot of fish eating the midge pupa in the surface. If it's a blue-winged olive hatch, it becomes extraordinarily obvious. They're floating on the water, you can see them flying in the air, and then you can make that adjustment. However, prior to or just after these hatches, the river can be quite calm as it is right now. At that point, then you should be, this is a tailwater river and there's no fish at the surface, you should really be nymphing it. In this particular case, at 20 cubic feet, you probably want to be using a strike indicator to keep your flies off the bottom. But getting back to that same winter logic, cold water closer to the dam and so on, what we're seeing in the river are a lot of midge pupa, and we're just beginning to see blue-winged olive nymphs, size 18s. So it makes sense for you as a nymph fisherman, as I am right now. I'm going to go out and start fishing. Is I want to put on probably a couple midges, and I'll start nymphing that. But very quickly I'll switch to, if that's not helping, I'll switch to maybe a midge pupa and a size 18 blue-winged olive nymph. So these are basic strategies and techniques of a tailwater river. And the concept in these rivers, especially in the wintertime, is the closer that you can fish towards the dam, the better your odds are of seeing much more insect and trout activity. If you like this video and videos like this, what we have on our channel, I'd invite you to visit our channel and see some of the neat things we have on there. We have some commentary, we have very instructional videos such as this one. We have really kind of cool videos and just a gamut of good stuff from the old fish hobo. And if you like that, I would encourage you to please subscribe so that we keep this channel going. I can keep going out and doing these things. And for you new guys to fly fishing, hopefully this is going to help you on tailwater rivers. And for you old fish hobos out there, hopefully there's a nugget or two for you to grab here. So if I'm lucky, I'll see you on the river.
As predicted, right around in the early afternoon, we found fish rising to blue-winged olives. You'll see there this fish rise to take this dun on the water, and that's what we had in front of us. So it was really a simple thing as figuring out, what size these blue-winged olives were and picking the right poly pattern, and then we were on. And at this point, the brown trout just came to our nets, and it became a game of your turn, my turn. And this tailwater, it's populated with large brown trout, and I'd been there all morning with very little fish activity. I caught maybe one or two on nymphs, but that was far and few between. But as soon as the hatch came off, these little blue-winged olives, the fish were just everywhere. And timing it right on these tailwater rivers can be the difference between success and failure. Wintertime on a tailwater river is the place to be. The mountain rivers are snowed over. You can't get to them. It's ice cold. The fish are lethargic. But down in and out of the mountains where these all these tailwaters or freestone rivers flow into reservoirs, out comes this rich water. And in the wintertime, I search out and find these tailwaters, and I target them, and that's where I'm going to be. A little research You know, and a little trial and error, you can zero in on these rivers and have a really good winter fishery for you that will last you all winter. And the results will be fish in the net.